Wickford is one of the prettiest villages in Rhode Island, in part because it's on the water. Because of that proximity, virtually everyone agrees the village needs sewers, in a town where the vast majority of property owners still rely on septic systems. But how to pay for sewers has been a challenge, as town officials put together financing for the estimated $5 million cost. Installation of sewers for the commercial buildings in the village will be the third phase of a larger sewer project that began on Post Road near Route 403 several years ago. North Kingstown had hoped a private developer's proposal for mixed-use development of this former elementary school would help extend a sewer line running down Post Road that currently ends at the State Police Barracks. When the developer's project stalled, the town manager and planner at the time in 2014 came up with another idea, running the line east onto Intrepid Drive, down the backside of Wilson Park and across the park over to Wickford, right by a long-time affordable housing complex.
The plan was to get the sewers to Wickford because Wickford's needed them forever. It's suffered as a town not having sewers.
Jim McGuire, a longtime resident and chairman of the town's GOP committee, has kept a close eye on the sewer project. When the town proposed using federal community development block grant money, CDBG for short, to help pay for the sewers, it raised red flags. The CDBG money comes from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. McGuire says it also comes with heavy strings attached, under guidelines revised last year. They are referred to as Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing, or AFFH for short. The town plans to use nearly $1.5 million in what is labeled CDBG Disaster Recovery Funds to pay for sewers at two affordable housing projects along and at the end of Intrepid Drive. The disaster? Hurricane Sandy in 2012. The rationale? The affordable housing projects are in a flood zone and need sewers. McGuire says the benefit of the federal funds may not be worth the cost to the rest of the town in the long run.
Once you get signed up to HUD's CDBG money, once you take the first grant under the new rules, you are signed up. You are committed to every rule that's in AFFH. And it is a god-awful long set of rules, very bureaucratic, very heavy, very expensive.
McGuire and others led the fight last year against a controversial plan called Roadmap. Critics say that if any community takes HUD money, then low-income rental housing would need to be built in existing neighborhoods throughout Rhode Island and across the country. Opponents call it social engineering.
AFFH says it, affirmatively furthering fair housing. That means there's got to be more housing available if you're spending the money on it.
Not retrofitting old housing with a sewer line?
No. Not putting in, like the old HUD money was to be used for playgrounds. Anything that made the community nicer and better and more attractive and so forth, not anymore. It is AFFH driven. And AFFH, the words mean something, and the laws and rules behind it mean a lot.
Another problem, the affordable housing units come with deed restrictions, meaning they have to be used for low-income residents for a set period of time, usually 30 years, sometimes up to 99 years. After those restrictions expire, the property can be sold to private companies. And the two in North Kingstown are both a stone's throw from the water, making them attractive for investors. That means taxpayers could wind up funding a sewer line that ultimately benefits a private owner.
Essentially, we're investing money as citizens that will go to the benefit of the new owners once it is flipped. Low-income housing is not an excuse to help get sewage into the rest of the town benefit. And in fact, it would help get the rest of the town, Wickford, a benefit that is sorely needed, but it is not supposed to be used for that. There's laws against it, federal laws.
And you think that exposes the town?
Totally. I mean, that's lawsuit time.
So what does the town have to say? The town manager at the time, Mike Embry, and planner John Reiner are both gone. When we asked the current planner what the deed restriction is on Wickford Village, originally built as Navy housing in the mid-60s, she said she didn't know and referred us to the property owner, who did not return our calls. The planner did tell us that the newer North Cove, completed in 2013, does have a 50-year deed restriction. McGuire said Town Council President Carrie McKay, a fellow Republican who voted to use the HUD money for sewer installation, has brushed off his concerns. What discussions have you had with him about this?
Loud, many, in-town committee meetings where he has actually ended up calling people names and told them, hey, if you don't like the way we're running the place, don't vote for me.
McKay was reelected last week, but the Republicans lost their majority, meaning he will likely be out as council president when the new council takes over. Last Thursday, we asked to talk with him about this issue, outlining what McGuire had told us and offering him an on-camera interview. McKay said he would call later on Friday or Saturday, but did not. We followed up with another email later Saturday evening, and he still has not responded. The project is behind schedule, so while the CDBG money has been approved and set aside, it still has not been spent, and a new council will be taking over soon. What's your recommendation to the town?
Drop it, leave it, run away from it as quickly as you can, because the cost to the town is going to be so many times $1.5 million you can't even imagine. When you look at a budget of $100 million, if you can't find $1.5 million somewhere to take care of it, knowing that you're standing at multiple millions down the road, could it be a year, 2, 3, 4? Whoever's in the council now will have to deal with it. The real money's going to come, the real hit's going to come 4 or 5 years from now. That's when you start with the lawsuits and so forth, driving all of the FFH guidance and rules. Free money is never free. There's always a price to pay. You don't know what it'll be, but there will be a price to pay. And HUD has free money in certain people's minds.
In North Kingstown, Jim Hummel for the Hummel Report.